So first up, I'm going to build a single virtual private cloud, a VPC. Now, right off the bat, you could go one step further and deploy across multiple VPCs. That way, no single person can get upset and delete your whole gig. But a single VPC is fine for me here. I'm going to deploy it to the EU West 1 region, Ireland as it's also known, and within there, I'm going to deploy across all 3 availability zones. Think of these right as sites, so data halls with rows and rows of racked servers, each availability zone with its own power and networking equipment and all of that jazz. Meaning, if one goes away, the others can survive. And it's worth knowing, each availability zone in AWS has these super duper high speed network connections between them, and I can really easily control the flow of traffic between all 3 of them. Then, within each availability zone, I'm going to build 2 networks, a management network and a production network. I'm going to stick the discovery service and the swarm managers into the management network, and the regular swarm nodes, so the ones that will run our apps and services, they're going to go in the prod network. Now, I'm just going to use the same VMs to host the discovery service and the swarm managers, but you could split them out if you want, like this. But you know what? It's pretty common to do it the way I'm doing here and run them on the same VM. Though, yes, I'm going to be running both as containers, so that's the swarm manager and the discovery service, both as containerized apps running side by side on the same VM just like this. Anyway, with this design, losing a single container, VM, network, or even an entire availability zone, totally survivable. But not only survivable, we can actually crack on as normal, not skip a beat, so to speak. So yeah, this here is effectively what I'm going to build and use as the basis of this course. 6 VMs plus a Docker client actually that I'm not showing here. Oh, and yeah, I've got name resolution configured, so all these boys and girls can talk using host names, and this will be important when we come to tighten things up with TLS later in the course. Oh yeah, and I've got the following network ports open, and I don't know if this is a good diagram or not, but basically it's commands from the client network to the swarm manager. I've got this as 3375 for unsecured and 3376 for secured, but those are totally arbitrary ports, right? There actually aren't any official swarm ports yet, so feel free to choose your own. I've seen 4000 and 4001 used a lot, as well as 3375 and 3376 that I'm using. But they are arbitrary. Go with whatever works for your environment. Then we've got 2375 and 2376 between the swarm managers and the engine daemons on the nodes. These let the swarm managers throw Docker commands at the nodes in the cluster. And we've also got 8500 open here too. This is actually service discovery using console, so console specific, meaning if you're using a different service discovery backend, then these ports are going to be different. Then we've got a bit of HTTP out to Docker Hub, lets us pull images and the likes. And then this bit inside the namespace of the swarm manager here, this is basically mapping 3375 and 3376 that come into the swarm manager VM, mapping them onwards into 2375 and 2376 inside the swarm manager container. Then 8500 coming into the swarm manager VM onto 8500 inside the discovery service container. Now, you might need additional ports depending on the applications that you deploy and if you're using native container networking. But these are the bare bones of what's needed to get a swarm cluster up and into the air. Now, I genuinely am done with the theory finally. The time to go and build stuff has finally arrived. But I'm not going to bore you with the specifics of an AWS build. I'll provide a CloudFormation template in the course notes that'll let you build all of this with just a few clicks if you want to follow along. If you want to know more about how to do this kind of stuff manually within AWS, then jump on over to my AWS VPC course. But aside from that, go build your VMs and the likes, then meet me back in the next module where we're going to get our hands dirty building Swarm. But you know what? If you just want to ride along and watch the videos, knock yourself out. Nobody's going to call you out for not following along in your own lab. You just want to watch and soak up the knowledge? Be my guest. Now, normally I'd do a summary module, but I'm not going to bother this time. The next time you hear my voice, it's going to be time to build a Swarm cluster.